When I was young, I loved reading popular science books, and one of my favorites was A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was a great writer. The way he explained tough concepts about the black holes was really fascinating, and his vision of physics was very interesting. He believed that we are very close to a theory of everything, which will include all the phenomena of nature and would explain and be able to predict all the phenomena in nature. I was amazed by the mention of a theory of everything. A theory of everything. I started envisioning a theory that would explain the unexplained mysteries of the universe, of the human mind, of human culture and psychology, and it will explain how to fix world hunger and poverty, and how to get the best political system that will work for the population that we have. I was 14. I thought in 20 years they will achieve this theory of everything, and I was hoping for a utopia, to be able to live in a utopia and be able to travel to the moon and Mars, because we had a theory of everything. I would not blame you if you call me a fool. I was naive, I was inspired. To be fair to my 14-year-old self, it was a theory of everything. Everything means everything. It excludes nothing. And also, that book had actually filled my mind with optimism towards the scientific method, towards the comprehensibility of the universe, and to the ability of the human mind. So is it some good old clickbait? Is it false advertising? Can this theory of everything be ever achievable? To understand this point of view, we first need to understand reductionism. Reductionism is a way of science that reduces all worldly phenomena, all worldly events, into the interplay between its building blocks. For example, why is this wall solid to touch? Well, because the molecules that make up this wall are really close together, really packed closely, and even though the atoms are themselves empty space, they are not actually empty. They're filled with the electrostatic forces that are pushing the atoms of my hand, pushing the electrons in those atoms of my hand. That's why it feels in my head that it's hard. Similarly, if you want to explain why is something cold to touch while other things are hot to touch, well, if something is hot to touch, it means that the molecules that make up that thing are shaking very rapidly and furiously, and as you touch that material, those molecules are shaking and hitting your hand and imparting all their energy into your hand, and all of a sudden your hand takes up a lot of energy at once, and it feels to us that it is hot. Again, we reduced normal worldly phenomena into the most basic parts and understood how things work. You can explain things like why don't oil and water mix together, why friction is a part of our lives, and why you can just rub a balloon to your shirt and then stick it to the wall. Why is water wet? Why is sky blue? All these things can be explained by reducing them into what makes them. Reductionism has a very powerful way of explaining the unity of all the forces in the universe. It explains how all chemical reactions are a result of electrons sharing themselves between atoms and forming relationships, how all of biology is chemical processes. It shows us how electricity and magnetism are intertwined and create a lot of interesting phenomena in the world, including the workings of the inside of the sun that gives us life. You can see how people would start believing in it so much as to think that one day it will explain everything. The reductionist way has been the triumph of the 19th and 20th century physics, but it has also created unwarranted disdain towards other sciences. Ernest Rutherford has been attributed with this quote: "All science is either physics or or stamp collecting. In effect, saying that physics is the king and will explain everything, and all the rest of the science is just classifications and segregation and creating names of things and all those ideas. But the real thing, the real explanations are always lying in physics. Chemistry is just physics of electrons, and biology is just all chemical processes happening in a body, or psychology is just the biological processes in the mind, or human culture is just because of psychology. So everything can be reduced back down to physics. This is basically the reason for the hubris in physics, a desire to name their biggest theory a theory of everything. Once we figure out all the particles in the universe, and we figure out all the forces acting between those particles, and we understand what was the initial condition of the universe, we'll be able to predict everything and anything happening in the universe, and no other science is required. The part that is left out is, even if they find such a theory, the application of that theory would be much too complex to predict anything in the universe except the most simple, most basic, most contrived examples of a few particles. So even if human behavior is utterly deterministic, there is no way any such theory can predict anything at that level. And even if it predicts it, it cannot explain it. Just by predicting, just by telling us that okay, such and such will happen at such and such time or whatever, the explanation is not in those equations. So even if the physicists find a theory of everything, that theory of everything won't be able to explain everything. So is a theory of everything possible that will fulfill the desires of a 14-year-old kid who wants to understand whether when he grows up he will be living in a utopia or not? What's up? Will it ever be achievable? Well, David Deutsch, in his book called The Fabric of Reality, explains exactly the same problem with reductionism and why it shouldn't be taken too far, and why explanations in science can live in places other than just the basic building blocks of things. For example, theories of natural and sexual selection adequately explain the evolution of life on Earth, even though these explanations lie nowhere near at the level of physical explanations. In his book, The Fabric of Reality, David Deutsch has in fact put forward a multifaceted theory of everything that includes quantum mechanics and computer science, information theory, and even philosophy as a valid source of explanations to explain the workings of our universe. He proclaims that his theory of everything is only one such attempt at a theory of everything, and much more work needs to be done, and we might probably will never reach the end, but we should look for it in all places we can. We should look for explanations everywhere possible. His work has been a great revelation to me, so we will cover much more of his work in our later videos. If you like such videos, help the channel grow by subscribing and sharing. And I have a new channel where we conduct live streams of learning and exploring new ideas. So I hope to see you there. Link is below in the description. We stream almost every day now. Do we stream every day? Hopefully every day. See you there.